23rd of January. That was an interesting one. Who was that saw Neo mating with Vamos? Lila had 2 cubs and Vamos has had 2 cubs. I came to Okonjima for the first time in 2019 as a guest, visiting the family and the nature reserve. And we got to know the researchers as well. As I'm a biologist, I was very interested in what they were doing and got to know them a little bit. I even helped with the camera traps of the brown hyenas, putting them out and bringing them in. So slightly a special guest that doesn't usually get offered. So my job at that time was actually working in South America in a wetland called Pantanal in Brazil. Encontro das Águas State Park in Brazil, these river systems. And this is where we traveled to see the jaguars and also giant river otters. And so I started IDing the families and the individual giant otters. And I was the onboard researcher on a floating hotel. And the tourism there was geared towards jaguars, seeing jaguars, photographing jaguars, as well as the other Pantanal wildlife. So my job was to give wildlife presentations to the guests, but also I collected the data for the jaguar sightings. And I managed that data. I presented it in maps, showed it to the guests, the guide, so we knew who the jaguar was, who they were related to, how old they were, mating events, their home range, and things like that. So that relates very much to what I do now for AfriCat. And me being a biologist, I wanted to know where the leopards were. Where could I find this leopard and where would I find that leopard? So I work as a remote wildlife data manager and analyst for AfriCat. The main source of our data is via an app that the guides use to collect data on the wildlife when they're out in the field. And through that, they can fill in a form asking specific questions about the specific animals, and then it gets uploaded to a database. And I manage the database. I look at it, I download it, I organize it in a way that it can be used for the park, for making maps and keeping track of individuals and the health of the wildlife. Also finding interesting bits of information that we can share with the guides, the guests, and again to help with the management of the park. We also have camera traps that we set up to catch particularly the leopards, but also some other species that we're monitoring on the reserve to know where the different leopards live, so we can compare females if there's overlap between females or females and males. Also keep track of mating events and who's the likely father of the different offspring that occur, and seeing the movements and changes in home ranges of the leopards throughout years and year on year. With the pangolin data, we're trying to continue what was done by our previous researcher, collecting basic data because we know so little about the pangolins, but also seeing what we can then go on and do, what options we have, what things are occurring on the reserve that's interesting that we might want to research to help our understanding of the pangolins on the reserve, but also the conservation of the species, to accurately monitor the timeframes and the different activities that the pangolins do to have a better idea of their daily activity, how long they spend feeding, how long they spend foraging, how long they're resting in the day, what times they come out, what times they go back in,